Tonight, before the world closes its eyes, let us sit down together in a silence just enough to hear our own voice. Outside the window, somewhere lies the city that does not sleep. The notifications still blinking, the plans still unfinished. But here, right where you are sitting, there is an empty chair reserved for stillness. Let your mind sit there as gently as a leaf resting on the surface of a pond. Do you see it? The more we chase focus, the more we lose it. The more we seek peace, the more we hear the noise of longing. So what if the secret of a life of focus and peace does not lie in the place we must go, but in the path of returning, right here and now? What if the key is not in tightening our grip, but in a letting go at the right moment? Try something very simple. Close your eyes for a moment, if you can. Pour into this present moment a full breath. Breathe in, feel the cool air touch the tip of your nose, travel down your throat, press into your chest. Breathe out. Let your shoulders drop half a centimeter. Let your forehead flatten like water when the wind stops. You don't have to make your breath more beautiful. You don't have to make your mind better behaved. You just need to be present. A meditation teacher once said that the moon never disappears. Only the surface of the pond sometimes ripples. Your mind is the same. Concentration isn't forcing the waves to stop. It is stopping the stirring of the water. When the hand stops stirring, the pond becomes clear by itself. When we stop trying to become someone else, the peace that was already there reveals itself. Tonight, I invite you to walk with me into a small garden. At the entrance, there is a dim lamp. The light is not to show us the way, to escape the darkness, but to remind us that there is a path in the darkness. We will walk slowly, very slowly. Listen to the grass softly brushing our hem. Breathe in the smell of earth after rain. And notice that each step can be an answer. You may carry into this garden a long day, a few things unfinished, a conversation still tangled in your heart. That is okay. Lay them down on the threshold, not to forget them, just to rest for a while. Like a traveler setting down their backpack on the porch before stepping inside for a warm cup of tea. When you leave, if you need to, you can pick it up again. But for now, step in with both hands empty, because only empty hands can receive. Throughout this journey, we are not asking the mind to become a stone block. We will let it be soft, like water, clear, like a mirror. When a thought comes, we know it is coming. When a thought goes, we know it is going. No chasing, no wrestling. Because the more we cling, the more we slip. The more we force, the more we get tangled. Concentration is staying with what is here. Peace is staying with how we stay. You can put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. Feel your heart beat like a small, distant drum, not rushed, but steady. Breathe in. Count silently. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. Count silently on 2, 3, 4. Each number is a bridge built across the noise. Crossing that bridge, you will find a cool inner space where you don't have to be excellent. You just have to be present. If there is an image for tonight, I choose the image of the lamp bearer walking along the river. The person is not driving away the night. The person is simply walking with the night, keeping the little flame alive. Focus is holding the lamp. Peace is walking alongside. No fighting, no resisting, just tending. Everything else, let the wind do. In the next 3 hours, we will slowly pass through some simple doors. The door of the breath, the door of the body, the door of letting go, the door of waking up in the small things, the door of compassion. Each door opens a wider space so you can see that the secret of meditation is not in lofty words, but in how you set the cup on the table, how you open an email, how you say a greeting. When you fully complete one small task, the entire universe nods. If you are lying down, listening, let the blanket touch your skin like a thin cloud. If you are sitting, let your spine be straight, like a bamboo stalk, but soft at the joints, like bamboo in the wind. Tilt your head slightly, as if listening to rain in the distance. Do not correct yourself too much. Just relax a little. Ease the push. Just enough so the breath moves leisurely. And if your mind asks, when will peace come? Smile and answer that peace is already here, right in the first syllable of the breath, right in the silence between one inhalation and one exhalation. We do not create peace. We only make space for it to sit down. Before we begin Chapter 1, allow me to whisper one word very softly. If these moments help you feel your heart soften, if you want a place to return to after days of many waves, you can hit the subscribe button and stay with us. Every week, I will place another lamp on this riverbank, so when you need it, you just step out and see the path. Thank you for being present, for believing in the power of a breath and a silence. Now we begin. Breathe in as if it is the first time you ever learned to live. Breathe out, as if it is the last time you ever learned to let go. Listen to the small bell passing through the night. Let that bell stop within you. And when it dissolves, you'll realize that stillness does not disappear. It just changes its name to present. Welcome to the journey, the Zen secret to living a focused and peaceful life. Next in tonight's journey, we step through the first door, where the concept of focus appears not as a burden pressed on the forehead, but as a soft presence spreading from the heart out to the hands. In the quiet room, let your gaze rest on the most ordinary point. Perhaps the brim of the cup, the edge of the pillow, or the very thin halo around the lamp. No need to stare hard. No need to try to hold anything. Just let the gaze rest there, like a weary bird perched on a branch, knowing it could fly again any moment. But right now, being still is a way to fly. That is focus, not pressing, but allowing rest. When allowed rest, what is there becomes naturally clear. Long ago, there was a student who followed his teacher into the forest. They walked early in the morning, when the mist still clung to the grass, and the hems of their robes were damp and cold. In a clearing, the teacher handed the student a bow and said, "Shoot an arrow through a falling leaf." The student squinted, drew the string, breathed in fast. The arrow left the bow like a broken sigh and landed somewhere in the underbrush. The teacher said, "Wait a moment." They stood still, listening only to the forest stirring softly, as though the earth breathed in deeply and exhaled lightly. When another leaf fell, the teacher said, "No need to squint. No need to tighten your grip. Just breathe in full and breathe out empty." The student did so, and the arrow flew like rainfall exactly where it needed to be. In that moment, the student understood that the target was not out of reach. The target was right in his breath. When the breath is no longer tied to the desire to win or lose, the arrow knows its way. When the mind no longer bound by must reach or must not reach, the act finds its ripeness. True focus turned out not to be pinning the heart to the wall, but placing the heart on the ground and listening to it beat normally. If you feel thoughts dragging you away from this story, do not go fight them. Open a small courtyard inside your mind. Let all the noise pass through like wind passing through a field of reeds. Just stand there, hand in hand, with the breath. Let the wind go where it will. Focus does not need high walls. Focus needs a spacious courtyard so that everything comes and goes without getting stuck. And when nothing gets stuck anymore, what remains in you is a clear, luminous quality, calm like rain that has just settled on the edge of a leaf. In a mountainside town, there lived an old stonemason. Every morning, he would polish his tools very slowly. He held each chisel as if greeting an old friend, placed each piece back in its place like returning a stone to the river's bed. His apprentice asked why he did not work faster. The master smiled and said that if he hurried, his hand would be stronger than his eyes stronger than his mind, and the stone would stop listening. When the mind is calm, the stone listens. When the mind is restless, the stone only hears the hammer. The day he finished a statue, someone asked his secret. He said he simply removed the excess stone so that what was already there long ago could show itself. True focus is like stripping away what is extra, not adding what is new. Removing the layer of interpretation, thick like dust. Removing the layer of judgment, heavy like fig. Removing the layer of desire, weighed down like a wet coat. When those layers thin, what has always been inside you, clear and precise, will step out like a guest slowly walking through the kitchen door. Now you can try a small exercise. Choose a place in your body to rest your attention. It might be the spot between your eyebrows, the tip of your nose, your chest, or the hand touching a surface. Over the next 5 breaths, simply stay with that place. No trying to hold it, no counting, no expecting a miracle. Just stay there. Breathe in. Feel a gentle breath arriving. Breathe out. Feel the touch softening. When a thought intrudes, smile at it, like greeting a neighbor passing by, then return to where you stand. Just 5 breaths. You'll find there is a thin thread linking you to the present. The less you tug, the stronger the thread becomes. Someone once said the body is a small temple, and the breath is a bell hanging beneath the eaves. Each inhale is the bell's gentle ring. Each exhale is the echo spreading out. If you listen closely, you'll find the sound doesn't stop at your ears. It moves through your heart and resonates in places that were tense. Those places soften like soil after rain. And when the soil softens, seeds of focus sprout without fanfare. They grow in silence, grow quietly, and one day you will lift your head and find a cool canopy of leaves inside you. Many ask how to stay grounded in a day full of tasks, how not to be swept away like a leaf in a fast current. I often invite them to do a little ritual when shifting from one task to the next. Before leaving one task and moving into another place, one full breath on the table. Inhale as if you are learning to live for the first time. Exhale as if you are learning to let go for the last time. The old story ends at the start of the exhale. The new story begins at the start of the inhale. Each transition like this helps you avoid carrying the tangled cords of the previous task into the next one. Your day has fewer knots, like a string of beads strung correctly. Each bead sits right, and light passes through. One evening, by the lakeside, there was a young man with a small mirror. He used to be very competent at his job, but lately his mind had become like a room with all doors open. Anyone could enter, anyone could leave, and everything was in disorder. He came to an old man fishing and asked how to regain focus. The old man said, "Place the mirror on the water's surface." The young man did so, saw the mirror ripple with the waves, and the reflection blur. The old man raised his hand off his fishing rod, touched the surface of the lake gently, then withdrew. The ripples quieted. The mirror's image became clear again, with no new stroke painted. The old man said, "When your life is shaking, do not try to draw new lines on the blur. Wait for the waves to rest. Breathe. When the water is still, the form appears on its own. Focus is not painting a new mural on the old wall. It is wiping off the dust that has built up for a long time. After wiping, the old wall is still the old wall, but the light knows where to stand. You might recall a moment today when you lost patience. Perhaps a message bombarded you, or an email made your heart skip. Bring that moment here. Place it into your palms as if you were putting a smooth pebble down. Breathe in and name simply what is present. Maybe it is irritation, worry, fear of missing out, fear of being judged. Breathe out and touch it with a simple kindness. No lecture needed, no punishment. Just acknowledge that it is present and comfort it with "I am here." Strangely enough, when an emotion is named and touched softly, it is like a child stops crying. When it stops crying, it sits down in a corner, and you again have space to place a cup of tea. A young woman once told me that every morning she made coffee, but her mind had already run ahead to her to-do list. The cup of coffee cooled on the table, the aroma lost halfway, and she drank something that no longer had a name. I suggested she try something very small for a week. When the water filtered through the coffee grounds, she stood half a step closer. When the aroma rose, she inhaled half a second longer. When she poured into the cup, She watched the dark stream swirl like a ribbon. When she took a sip, she let her lips touch the warmth for real. That week, she wrote later, yes, there was still work. The phone still rang, but she no longer felt dragged away from herself as before. Just a small ritual, but it was like closing a door behind her so that wind did not blow through her back. When the doors that leak get closed, focus no longer has to fight the breeze. It simply sits with you and breathes. We often think of focus as gathering all the light into a single beam and shining it on one point. But sometimes that makes the eyes tired. At times, you need to widen your view. Try seeing the whole scene at once, like when you stand before a wide field. Do not cling to a single blade of grass. Let your eyes merge with the expanse of sky and earth. When awareness expands, something strange happens. The important details still reveal themselves like specks of light in the night, uncovered when you stop forcing your eyes. That is the difference between narrow focus and wide awareness. Both are needed. It is like when reading, you need the lamp shining straight. And when you walk through a forest at night, you need your eyes to adjust to the dark and read the path by a different light. If you feel tired from forcing switch to opening, if you feel lost from opening too wide, switch to focusing again. Skill lies in knowing when to return to the breath as an anchor and when to let the mind roam and then come back. In work, there are stretches where you must row the boat through rapids. Strong hands, straight eyes. There are other stretches where you float through calm waters to listen to fish surfacing. If you always row hard, your arms will tire and your heart will drain. If you always float, the boat drifts into reeds. Balance is not dividing force equally, but reading the water flow of each river section. Life is also a river, and you are the rower who knows how to listen to the water. Focus is rowing at the right time. Peace is floating in the right place. Both are an art of reading the water. One of the simplest ways to return is to complete one small gesture. Place the glass on the table as if you have spent a lifetime learning to place exactly one glass onto exactly one wooden surface. Fold the towel as if a gentle tailor is leaning on his chin, watching you. Close a door as if the night is listening to you say goodnight. These actions do not resolve all your busyness, but they reconnect the broken threads around you. When the thread reconnects, you no longer feel you must carry the whole world. You only carry what your hands touch. And strangely enough, the rest settles where it belongs. Let me share one more story about letting go, because without letting go, focus is always pulled by invisible hands. Two monks were walking along a stream. The rain from the night before had raised the water, and the current was strong. They encountered a woman, standing hesitantly, her long dress preventing her from wading across. The older monk carried her across and set her down on the opposite bank. Then they continued walking. The younger monk was puzzled the entire way and asked the next evening why the teacher did that when monks were forbidden from touching women. The teacher smiled and said, "I set her down on the other side of the stream a long time ago. Why are you still carrying her?" Many people laugh at this part of the story, but then fall silent because they realize they do likewise. The events of the past are still carried across one path to another, and the arms grow tired, the mind tires, the eyes tire. Focus has no foothold when the heart holds too many guests. Forgiving yourself and forgiving the past is a door wide open that makes space for focus to sit down. You can try right now. Remember, a small thing that still bothers you. A little remark unsaid, a mistake, a missed appointment. Breathe in, name it quickly, as one might name a friend coming to visit. Breathe out. Say in your mind, "I know you are here, and I set you down here." Repeat 3 times. No pressure to forget. Just begin placing down. With each placement, your hands lighten. The space in your chest widens. And when there is space, the breath enters like an old friend arriving home after a long journey. There are days when the mind is like a room with many windows open in all directions. The wind blows from the mountain, from the river, from the market. The curtains flutter like thin rows of trees. You stand in the middle of the room, your hands wanting to close all the windows, but not knowing where to start. At that moment, do not run around. Sit down right in the middle of the room. Place your hand on your lap. Breathe. Just 3 full inhalations and exhalations. Then stand up and walk to the nearest window. Close it quietly. Return to the center. Breathe again, then go to another window. 10 windows will be closed more peacefully than a whirlwind slamming them shut. In life, closing off a few channels of information, a few flows, a few conversations not needed, is also a way to soothe an overloaded brain. When the brain does not have to respond everywhere, the heart has room to do what it does best: be present. And now, before moving on, I invite you to practice a short meditation, like a bridge that guides us into the next chapter. Sit or lie down in a way your body can feel grateful. Close your eyes if you can. Breathe in, allowing the air to travel down into your belly as if pouring water into a large jar. Breathe out. Let the air exit through your nose a little longer, as if pouring water through the narrow neck of a pitcher. Do this for 7 rounds of breath. In each round, listen for a very soft sound in the room. It might be the hum of a refrigerator, the whir of a fan, the distant noise of a passing vehicle, or simply your own breath. You do not need to choose a pleasant sound. Only acknowledge a sound that is present. Use the first 3 rounds for your body to relax. The next 3 rounds for your mind to calm down. The final round to thank yourself for being here. When you open your eyes afterwards, you may see everything unchanged, yet a thin layer of peace will have settled over each surface. That layer is fragile if we yank at it, but if we handle it tenderly, it will grow thicker with every breath. We have now touched the essence of focus as staying present, as the act of removing, and as a breath that follows its path. From here, the second door opens the door of stillness. Stillness is not standing motionless. Stillness is walking without stirring dust. Stillness is not hearing nothing. Stillness is hearing and still having space to breathe. Stillness is not closing every door inward. Stillness is opening just the right door for light to come in exactly enough. When stillness is present, focus becomes light, as a scarf draped gently over your shoulders. You can work for hours without feeling a minute torn away. You can talk without needing to perform. You can sit beside someone you love without feeling the need to fill the space with words. There is a mountain lake that always reflects the moon so clearly that visitors feel as if they could reach out and scoop it. The keepers of the lake do not build fences around it. They only hang a small sign at the entrance that says, "Walk lightly, speak softly, breathe gently." That is enough. The lake does the rest on its own. If you want stillness, sometimes you do not need to build a fence inside. Just hang that small sign at the start of your day. In everything you do, walk lightly, speak softly, breathe gently. And so, through a whole day, you will find your mind like water that knows how to hold the moon's reflection. And when the moon leaves the mountaintop, the reflection in the lake does not vanish. It simply moves with the moon. Your mind is the same. It shifts according to conditions. It rests in the breath and settles. When you are ready, we will step into the next chapter of the journey, where stillness is distilled from ordinary movements and becomes a nameless fragrance. You do not need to do much. Just continue sitting there. Place your hand on the warm taut of your knee. Listen to the night, moving through very small cracks in the door, and allow yourself to believe that the secret of a focused and peaceful life is always closer than you think. If you forgot that today in a hurried afternoon, just remember how you are breathing now. Remembering is enough to return. We walk a few more steps on the path of stillness, like walking through a silent garden. The smell of damp leaves lingers on the ground after early rain. A few droplets cling to the edge of grass and tremble when the wind passes. You may place your hand on your chest and feel a very small warmth beneath your shirt. That warmth is a sign that life is gently at work within you. Stillness is not about silencing all sounds. Stillness is allowing those sounds a peaceful seat and then letting them move on when it is time. Let the fuck off sound of a vehicle, the closing of a door, the slow ticking of a clock, all share space with your breath without crowding. When you no longer chase away any sound, the sounds themselves will lower their volume. When you no longer try to stop every motion, motion will soften by itself. Therefore, stillness is the art of coexisting in a spacious room where everything is allowed to be present, but nothing is allowed to dominate. There is an old story about the moon and the lake. A student asked why the moon is so beautiful and yet sometimes cannot be seen. The teacher took him to the lake at full moon night. The moon lay whole in the lake's reflection, shining so bright, the student thought he could scoop it with his hand. The next day, the student returned and saw a strong wind stirring the water. The moon's image broke into 1,000 fragments of light. He panicked and said the moon must have shattered. The teacher only smiled and said that the moon had never shattered. The lake was just busy talking with the wind. On another day, rain fell and mud mixed into the water. The student said the moon was lost. The teacher again smiled and said the moon had not gone. The lake was just healing after the rain. Then one clear day, the wind stopped. The rain ended. The mud settled. The water became as clear as glass. The moon returned exactly as before. When we hear this story, we understand that stillness is not a permanent state, but the ability to return. Your mind may converse with the wind, may endure the rain, may hold muddied water. But when you sit and breathe, the mud settles, the wind rests, the water clears. What you need to do is not keep the moon in place forever, but tend to your lake with the right small movements at the right time. So how do you help your own lake settle more quickly after the rains of a long day? Give your body a chance. Lean your back against the chair's support, as if leaning against a tree trunk. Lift your crown lightly, as if someone placed a leaf there. Let your shoulders drop another half finger width. Soften your forehead, as if opening a small window to a gentle sky. Now breathe in silently, as if pouring water into a jar. breathe out slowly, as if pouring water through the narrow neck of a bowl. No need to count, just feel. After a few rounds, you will hear a nameless sound, like warm earth beneath sunlight. That is the sound of stillness returning. When stillness returns, focus is no longer a battle, it is a seat. You sit in it, and the world arranges itself around you. In the city, there was an old potter. He stoked his kiln before dusk. Each time, he would not watch the flame. He would watch the smoke. He said that the hot flame is easy to see, but the smoke tells whether the kiln is breathing properly. If the smoke is blue, the clay is still wet, and you must open the kiln door and wait. If the smoke is yellow, the fire is eager. You must reduce the wood so the kiln does not rage. If the smoke is nearly clear, the clay is ready. You can place the mold. He did not fight the fire. He did not force the kiln. He just listened to a subtle signal that the hurried person cannot hear. Stillness is like that, not suppression, but reading the signs. Inside you, there are very fine currents telling that your mind is too tight or too lax. When too tight, you feel you must finish things rather than do them well. When too lax, you feel you drift along fragments of the day. Just noticing that signal, you can adjust a little, a breath, a posture, a schedule to suit the inner water flow. Do it often enough, and it becomes habit. Afterward, just stepping into a room is enough for the mind to find its chair. Sometimes you might say, I tried sitting still, but thoughts keep running. Let them run. See them like children playing in the yard. You just sit under the porch and watch with normal kindness. When they fall, you check if their knee is hurt. When they fight, you remind gently and let them make up. You don't chase them out of the yard. It is your home's yard. Nor do you let them rampage into the shrine room. You draw soft but clear boundaries. Thoughts inside you also need those boundaries. Boundaries are not high walls built in a hurry. Boundaries are habits of returning to the body. Each time the body is touched, the thoughts pause a little to listen, like children pausing when their mother calls their name. Choose a cue. Some people choose the tap of thumb to forefinger. Some choose the contact of the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth when exhaling. Some choose the feeling of the fabric touching their neck when their shoulder drops. Each cue is a thread. You tie this thread to a circle called presence and wear it through the day. Each time you lose your way, you glance down at your hand and find your way home. Over time, you no longer need to look. You just move ever so slightly, and the circle remembers you. When the circle remembers the door to stillness opens of itself. One afternoon, someone visited a watch repair shop. On the wall hung dozens of old and new clocks, but curiously, they all showed exactly the correct time. The watchmaker said the secret is not in rare gears. The secret is the tiny amount of oil he applies in exactly the right spot. If too much oil, the watch will slip. If too little friction halts the hands. He learned this by listening to a tick so fine that the average person cannot hear it a tick, telling whether the spot is dry or wet. Stillness in life demands that kind of listening. You do not need a revolution for peace. You just need a few tiny drops of good oil in the right place. That place might be 10 minutes off screens before bed. It might be 3 breaths before replying to a tricky message. It might be a warm glass of water sipped in quiet before the meeting. Those small drops keep your whole machine from getting stuck. And now, before moving on, I invite you to do a short meditation, like a bridge that leads us into the next chapter. Sit or lie down in a way your body can feel gratitude. Close your eyes if you can. Breathe in, inviting the air to go down into your belly as if pouring water into a large jar. Breathe out, letting the air exit through your nose a little longer, as if pouring water through the narrow neck of a pitcher. Do this for 7 cycles of breath. In each cycle, notice a very soft sound of the room. It might be the hum of a refrigerator, the whisper of a fan, the distant sound of a passing car, or your own breath. There is no need to pick a pleasant sound. Just pick a sound that is present. The first 3 cycles bring the body to relax. The next 3 bring the mind to quietude. The final cycle is to thank yourself for being here. When you open your eyes, you might see things are unchanged, but a thin layer of peace will have settled across all surfaces. That layer is easy to disturb, but if treated gently, it will thicken with each breath. We've touched the essence of focus as staying present, as the act of letting go, and as a breath that knows its path. From here, the second door opens the door of stillness. Stillness is not standing motionless. Stillness is walking without stirring dust. Stillness is not hearing nothing. Stillness is hearing and still keeping space to breathe. Stillness is not closing every door inward. Stillness is opening just the right door so that light enters just enough. When stillness is present, focus becomes light, like a scarf gently draped across shoulders. You can work hours without feeling a minute torn away. You can talk without performing. You can sit beside the one you love without feeling you must fill silence with words. There is a mountain lake that reflects the moon so clearly that visitors believe they could reach down and scoop it up. The keepers do not build fences. They hang a small sign at the entrance walk. Lightly, speak. Softly, breathe gently. That is enough. The lake does the rest. If you want stillness, sometimes you don't need to build internal fences. Just hang that sign at the beginning of your day. Walk lightly. Speak softly. Breathe gently. Then, through the day, you'll find your mind like water that knows how to hold the moon's image. And when the moon leaves the mountaintop, the reflection in the lake doesn't vanish. It moves with the moon. Your mind is the same shifting according to conditions, resting in the breath and at peace. When you're ready, we'll move into the next chapter of the journey, where stillness is distilled from ordinary movements and becomes a nameless fragrance. You don't need to do much. Just continue sitting. Place your hand on the warm top of your knee. Listen to the night passing through the small cracks of the door, and allow yourself to believe that the secret of a focused and peaceful life is always closer than you think. If you forgot that this afternoon, during a hurried moment, just remember how you're breathing now. That alone is enough to bring you home. We walk a few more steps on the path of stillness, as if walking through a quiet garden. The scent of damp leaves lingers on the ground after early morning rain. A few drops dwell on the edge of grass, trembling when the wind passes. You may place your hand on your chest and feel a subtle warmth beneath your shirt. That warmth is a sign that life is gently working inside you. Stillness is not silencing all sounds. Stillness is letting them have a gentle seat and allowing them to leave when the time comes. Let the distant hum of a vehicle, the sound of a door closing, the slow tick of a clock all share space with your breath without crowding it. When you no longer chase away any sound, the sounds themselves lower their volume. When you no longer try to stop all motion, motion softens by itself. Thus, stillness is the art of coexistence in a spacious room where everything is allowed to be present, but nothing is allowed to dominate. There is an old story about the moon and the lake. A student asked the teacher why the moon is beautiful, yet sometimes unseen. The teacher took him to a lake at the full moon. The moon's reflection lay whole in the water, shining so bright, the student believed he could lift it by hand. The next day, strong wind stirred the water. The moon's image shattered into thousands of slivers of light. The student panicked, thinking the moon had broken. The teacher simply smiled and said the moon never broke. Only the lake was busy speaking with the wind. Later, Rain mixed mud into the water. The student believed the moon was lost. The teacher again smiled. The moon wasn't lost. Only the lake was healing after rain. Then, finally, a clear day came. Wind ceased. Rain stopped. The water cleared, and the moon returned fully. From this, we realize that stillness is not a permanent condition. It's the capacity to return. Your mind may converse with wind, endure rain, hold muddy water. But when you sit and breathe, the mud settles. The wind rests. The water clears. What you need to do is not keep the moon in place forever, but tend your lake with the right small actions at the right times. So how do you help your inner lake settle more quickly after a long day's storms? Give your body a chance. Lean your back against the chair's back, as if leaning against a tree trunk. Lightly lift the crown of your head, as if someone placed a leaf there. Let your shoulders drop another half finger width. Soften your forehead, as though opening a small window to a gentle sky. Now breathe in quietly, as if pouring water into a jar. Breathe out slowly, as if pouring water through the narrow neck of a bowl. No need to count, just feel. After a few rounds, you will hear a nameless sound like warm earth under sunlight. That is the sound of stillness returning. When stillness returns, focus is no longer a battle, it's a seat. You sit there and the world arranges itself around you. In the city, there was an old potter who fired his kiln before dusk. Each time, he would not watch the flame. He would watch the smoke. He said the heat is easy to see, but the smoke tells whether the kiln is breathing correctly. If the smoke is blue, the clay is still wet, and you must open the door and wait. If it's yellow, the fire is too eager. You must reduce the fuel so it does not rage. If it's nearly clear, the clay is ready. You can set the mold. He did not fight the flame. He did not force the kiln. He simply listened to a subtle signal that the hurried person cannot hear. Stillness is like that, not suppression, but listening. Inside you, there are fine currents that signal your mind is too tight or too slack. When it's too tight, you feel you must finish rather than be right. When it's too slack, you drift along the day's debris. Just noticing that sign, you can adjust slightly, a breath, a posture, a pattern, to fit your inner flow. With enough practice, it becomes a habit. Thereafter, simply entering a room is enough for your mind to find its chair. Sometimes you might say, I tried sitting still, but thoughts keep running. Let them run. See them like children playing in the yard. You just sit on the porch and watch with gentle kindness. When they fall, you see if their knee is scraped. When they fight, you remind softly, then let them reconcile. You don't chase them out of the yard, they belong to your home. Nor do you let them storm the shrine room unmediated. You set soft but clear boundaries. Thoughts within you also need boundaries. Boundaries are not high walls thrown up in haste. They are habits of returning to your body. Each time your body is touched, the thoughts pause a moment to listen, like children pausing when their mother calls their name. Choose a cue. Some people choose the tap of their thumb to forefinger. Some choose the contact of the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth with each exhale. Others choose the feeling of their shirt touching their neck when their shoulder drops. Each cue is a thread. You tie that thread around a bracelet called presence and wear it through the day. Each time you lose your way, you glance down at your hand and know your way home. Over time, you don't need to glance, you just move a little, and the bracelet remembers you. When the bracelet remembers, the door to stillness opens by itself. One afternoon, someone visited a watch repair shop. On the wall hung dozens of old and new clocks, all showing the correct time. The watchmaker said the secret isn't in rare gears. It's the tiny amount of oil he applies exactly in the right place. If too much oil, the watch slips. If too little, the hands stick. He learned it by listening to a tick too fine for most to hear a tick that tells whether the spot is dry or wet. Stillness in life demands that kind of listening. You don't need a revolution for peace. You just need a few drops of good oil in the right position. That position might be 10 minutes off screen before sleep. It might be 3 breaths before replying to a difficult message. It might be a warm glass of water sipped slowly before the meeting. Those little drops keep your whole machine from getting stuck. One noon, 2 monks walked along a stream. The rain from the night before had made the water muddy and the current strong. A woman stood hesitantly before the flow, her long dress preventing her from crossing. The elder monk carried her across and placed her down on the far bank, then folded his hands and moved on. The younger monk remained silent throughout the journey, and in the early evening, he asked his teacher why he had done what the rules forbid. The teacher smiled and said, "I placed her down on the other side of the stream long ago. Why are you still carrying her in your mind?" Many know the story, but each time we recall it, its meaning opens another door. Letting go is not only about placing something down on the ground. Letting go is about placing it out of your head. To place it out of your head means no longer engaging in endless dialogue with it through what-ifs or if-onlys. When the mind quiets its chatter, the heart's waves calm. And when the heart's waves calm, your hands are free to do the work in front of you. You might try this now in your room. Pick one unfinished thing that has dragged on too long. Not to complete it immediately, just to give it a clear decision. Either move it to a scheduled slot or remove it from the list altogether. When something is named correctly, it stops tugging at your sleeve in the hallway. Some say they want to let go, but their hands don't listen. That happens because the hands follow habit, and habits are born from many years of naming things in a tense tone. Change the tone first, then the hands will follow. Instead of saying, "I must cut off," say softly, "I am ready to lighten a little." Instead of saying, "I cannot forgive," say, "I allow that matter to sit in a different chair, further from the hearth, so its smoke will not sting the cook's eyes." When the tone changes, the body receives a signal of safety. Shoulders drop, the heart rate slows, the nervous system ceases its alarm. In that state, the decision to put it down comes more naturally, like a ripe fruit that falls from the stalk on its own accord. No need for someone to twist it off roughly. You might play a small ritual with the things you want to let go. Write them on paper in short, simple phrases. No judgment, no long descriptions, just the name. Fold the sheet into 3, each fold representing one breath fully present. Place the sheet in a box or a seldom opened drawer. Whisper a thank you for teaching me something and close it, not to discard it, but to give memory a respectable place to dwell, so it stops roaming the rooms and touching objects at the wrong moments. That night, when you lie down, notice whether the feeling in your chest is lighter by 0.5 centimeter. Only 0.5 centimeter is enough to help you sleep 1 layer deeper, and tomorrow morning you will wake with a gait that squeaks less in the joints of life. There was a carpenter who always cleared his bench at the end of each day. He did not clear it to emptiness. He simply returned each tool to its home saw, with saw, chisel, with chisel, sandpaper, with sandpaper. He said, a workspace needs to know its master's address. The next morning, when you open the door, everything stands in its place, like friends, ready to begin again. The mind is the same. If the night before you place each story into the correct compartment, the next morning, concentration returns like a trusted craftsman, no longer searching for the hammer in the nail box. Letting go sometimes is simply choosing a time to tidy up, not when you're exhausted, but when you still have a bit of gentle strength to place things down without making them fall. When the heart is lighter, we step into chapter 4, where the practice of one mindful breath appears like a thin thread connecting body and mind. Many believe you have to sit long for meditation. You have to count to high numbers to be diligent. But the beauty of a complete breath is that it can happen anywhere at the sink, in an elevator, during a dialogue, before an email, after a phone call. One breath like that is like a drop of oil in a watch, small, but placed just right. It keeps the whole mechanism running smoothly. You might set a small intention for yourself that today you will have 10 such breaths spaced evenly, like 10 small lamps along a pathway. Begin by assuming a posture friendly to your lungs. If sitting, place your feet on the floor like two flat stones on the stream bank. If standing, soften your knees like two doors opening to a backyard. If lying down, let your spine settle like a stream just leaving the sun. Gently narrow your gaze. Relax your forehead and around your eyes, as if drawing a thin curtain to soften the light. Bring your attention to the bridge of your nose, where air passes, or to your belly, where movement is clear and gentle. Inhale and count silently. 1, 2, 3. No rigid discipline, just enough awareness, not to drift. Pause a little, as if standing on a porch, listening to the courtyard. Exhale, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, slightly longer, like pouring water out of a jug. At the end of the exhale, pause again, then begin the next cycle. Just 3 cycles like this suffice to soothe body and mind like a pond settling. If you wish to deepen, add 2 more cycles, but always keep the gentleness of the rhythm. Do not turn the breath into an exam. On some days, when the mind is especially noisy, you can use imagery to give the breath a spine. Imagine each inhale as a wind through a field of reed grass, slender and cool. The reeds bend as one, but do not break. Each exhale is a tide withdrawing from the sand, leaving behind ripples like the ocean writing its script. Let this image arrive without force. It slips gently into the dry places of memory and moistens them. When those dry layers soften, attention to the present becomes as easy as grabbing a handrail, smooth worn by years. A full breath holds the structure of a complete sentence. Inhale is the subject, the pause a comma. Exhale is the predicate, the pause at the end a period. When you speak a full sentence, the listener understands. When you take a full breath, the body understands, and the mind understands. Understanding here is not accumulating knowledge. Understanding is recognizing you are still here, and life continues to move through you with all its flavor. Many tensions arise because the sentence was cut, because you inhaled too quickly and exhaled too sharply, because you added an exclamation where a comma would suffice. Let the breath teach you the grammar of peace. And from that grammar, you rewrite your day's actions into sentences that are not tense. In work, before beginning a deep focus session, you might do a ritual of 3 anchor breaths. The first breath is to settle the body into the right chair. Feel the seat touching your thighs, feet on the floor, shoulders drop. The second breath is to let the mind close. The side rooms gently turn off lights. Place the bunch of keys on the table. The third breath is to set the intention for the next 25 minutes. We'll stay with one task. After 3 breaths, open the document, touch the tool, begin. When the timer signals the end of the session, take another 3 breaths to close, like saying thank you to yourself and the work. Then stand, drink a glass of water, look out the window. Let your eyes wander across the sky. Such rhythms that open and close create banks for the flow. The water does not flood the garden, the trees do not drown, and you don't end up slapping in panic. In difficult conversations, one full breath can change the direction of the boat. When the other person's words touch your sensitive zone, borrow the inhale to slow half a second. Borrow the exhale to remove a thorn from the sentence you were about to say. Not suppressing, simply choosing a way to phrase that does not raise the room's temperature. When the heat lowers, understanding increases, and the dialogue escapes from a scratch it did not need. Once you do it one time, you gain a silent trust that you can steer with the tiny steering wheel of your breath. And that steering wheel is always ready above the endless sea of your heart. For sleep, 1. Full breath is also a patient friend. Before you turn off the lights, lie on your side or back in the position you feel comfortable. Place one hand on your belly and one on your chest. Inhale and feel the hand on your chest rise first. Exhale and feel the hand on your belly fall afterward like 2 waves, passing without collision. Count 3 rounds. Then switch order inhale to raise the one on your belly first. Exhale to lower the one on your chest afterward. A busy mind will enlist a few neurons to follow this gentle game, and meanwhile, the brain's alarm circuits get a short recess. Many have fallen asleep without noticing, and that is the kindest way to let a day close. Once one breath becomes your guide, every room in the day gains an entrance and an exit. You will step into Chapter 5 naturally, where daily life meditation is no longer a ritual, only on the cushion, but how you wash a dish, fold a shirt, reply to a friend, drive a stretch of road, open a page of a book, clean the phone screen, Put a bunch of greens into the fridge. Take a pot of plant out to the balcony. But before that chapter, please give yourself one more small pause. Look around the room. With the gaze of someone visiting for the first time, offer each object a silent greeting. The greeting needs no words, just the intention, "I see you." When someone is seen, they soften. Objects soften too. The room softens. And when the room softens, the mind softens. And when the mind softens, all the secrets of a focused and peaceful life do not need someone else to reveal them. They open by themselves, like a door, long unlocked. We open the door and step into Chapter 5, where meditation is no longer placed on a high pedestal, but lives already in the bowl, the floor, the doorknob, the scent of tea, and the footsteps walking down a hallway. Meditation in daily life begins with the way you place your body into the simplest work. When you wash a dish, do not try to turn the gesture into a complex ritual. Just let the warm water touch the back of your hand and observe how that point of contact moves as you turn the bowl under the tap. The soap bubbles rise, then collapse. The kitchen light touches the water surface and makes a glimmering ribbon. The sound of water falling from the bowl's rim into the sink becomes evenly spaced audio beads. In those few seconds, you and the bowl are fully present with each other. When you let that presence take root, the entire kitchen softens like an old friend smiling. There is no longer the pressure to finish quickly. There is no longer the feeling of being pulled by the clock. There is only a small scene completing itself. Completing not because it is flawless, but because it is not severed. Walking to the door is also an opportunity. Each morning, before touching the doorknob, pause one breath. Look at the doorknob's surface, polished from many touches, and silently thank the comings and goings that have passed here. When you turn the knob, feel the coolness run from your fingertip into your palm like a little stream. Open the door. Let the light touch your eyes without hurry, as if a gentle stranger wearing dust-cleared slippers is stepping through the threshold. Step 1. Step down the porch. Hear the shoe touch the ground. That is enough for a morning that has substance not emptied by automatic habit. Eating a meal can also be meditation. Do not lecture yourself that you must chew a set number of times. Just allow the flavor to touch your tongue fully once. When you lift the spoon, know how much force your hand used. When you place it down, know whether the sound of contact on the plate was light or heavy. When you swallow, know your throat is opening. These simple matters pull you out of the thought tunnels you've dug in advance. You return to the body, and each return warms your home. When the home is warm outside, winds no longer cut as sharply. At work, meditation in life is the way you set the rhythm. Before each deep focus segment, place 3 anchor breaths as you've learned. During the session, after 15 minutes, let your eyes rest 1 cycle longer. Look far away. Let the muscles around your eyes relax like a cord removed from the peg. Place a glass of water beside your desk like a small bell, reminding you to drink. Each sip is a punctuation mark for the stream of thoughts. If your phone rings, don't immediately reach for it. Exhale fully. First, then look. Similar to drawing the curtain slightly before opening the window. Let the breeze enter without dust scattering. When replying to an email, type a short sentence and then pause half a second. Read the tone in your head. If you feel spike, file it down. If you feel harshness, mix in a little water, not to please someone else, but to avoid scratching your own throat. Housework is also a place to refine the gentle hand. Sweep the floor like stroking the earth. Do not fight the dust. Wipe the tabletop like greeting the small scratches that have lived with you through seasons. Fold the clothes like speaking thanks to the body that wore them all day. These gestures do not take time away. On the contrary, they give you another kind of time, a thick time that carries scent. When that time becomes thick enough, worry has place to sit down and become story. It no longer wanders the porch and knocks rudely. Driving the car is also meditation, but with open eyes and clear awareness. Place your hands on the steering wheel and feel the plastic wrapped under your skin. Feel your foot transfer the weight from the gas to the brake, like passing a soup bowl from one hand to another. Each glance in the rear-view mirror is a reminder of past that has just passed and has been seen enough, then returning to the road ahead. Don't turn the street into a meditation cushion, but also don't turn the steering wheel into a sudden lunge. When you drive this way, the city becomes less a battlefield, and when you arrive, you still have softness enough to voice a greeting. Even the phone in your hand can be a bell. Each time you unlock it, try one extra breath before you tap a desired icon. Each time you set it down, place it as you would a fragile object. Turn off unnecessary notifications in the hours you wish to belong to yourself, like closing a few windows so the breeze doesn't sweep through. When you send a message, ask yourself, does this sentence need a cushion at the beginning or end? A short thank you. Such cushions help the sentence avoid colliding when it arrives at the recipient. Fewer collisions mean fewer waves. Fewer waves mean less wear. Less wear means you have more. left for focus and peace. In caring for loved ones, meditation is the art of being present without hovering. When a child tells you about their day at school, don't rush to teach. When your partner sighs, don't rush to correct. Place your hand over theirs, like placing a warm cup of tea in front of them. Listen, the full exhale of a breath, then speak. Many conflicts arise because one person adds words while the other is still exhaling. If you wait one full inhalation, bow your head a little, you have opened a path. That path is not for logic, for the person. When the person has a path, reasoning will follow behind like a well-behaved child. Everyday life meditation is also caring for your immediate environment. A clean corner of the table, a green potted plant, a scent you love, an instrumental song, sometimes enough to change the day's structure, not for decoration, but as a reminder that you deserve to be in a decent space. A decent space changes the air in your lungs. When the air changes, thoughts change too. When thoughts change, choices change. A chain of such small changes makes big roads without a trumpet. You can design some transition rituals. After finishing work, stand and stretch your arms. Roll your shoulders 3 times. Open the window. Look at the sky for 10 breaths. Before dinner, wash your hands under warm water. Place both hands on your face as if someone invites you to drink light. Before sleep, write 3 short lines. 1 thing you achieved, 1 thing you learned, 1 thing you are grateful for. Those rituals are the bridges hung over the valley of fatigue, helping you cross to the other bank without falling. When meditation has soaked into how you touch the world, we step into Chapter 6, the power of wide awareness. If focus is a spotlight shining on one point, awareness is the sky embracing the whole field. Without the sky, the beam falters. Without the beam, the sky is vague. We need both to pass through a day without being drained. The power of wide awareness lies in your ability to be present simultaneously for many layers without any layer holding you hostage. Listening to someone speak while still knowing how your posture is. Doing a task with your hands while still knowing how your breath moves. Walking in a crowd while still knowing where your feet are placed. This is not multitasking. This is depthful single tasking. Begin with the exercise of expanding your view. Sit quietly and choose a point in front of you at eye level. Do not stare. Just let your gaze rest there. Then expand your view to the sides, as if you open 2 windows. Let yourself see the whole scene without chasing any detail. At first, your eyes may tire, but within minutes, the small muscles around them will learn to distribute the effort. In that state, if an important movement enters, it still shows up like a spark, but you don't lose the background of your picture. The background is wide awareness. The background embraces the spark, so the spark does not burn the forest. Next is the exercise of listening the soundscape. Close your eyes and listen to the farthest sound you can hear. Maybe a car on the highway, a dog barking in distance, wind brushing a roof. Then, gradually, move nearer sounds inside the house, the hum of the fan, the fridge. Then, nearer still, the sound of clothes shifting as you breathe the swallow of saliva. Then, closest of all, your breath. After that, expand out again. You walked the backyard of sound from the fence to the porch, then back to the road. Do a few rounds like that, and you will find sound is no longer an attacker. They become citizens of your little town, each with a home, a schedule, a rhythm. When sounds have homes, you are no longer called out of your place all the time. Wide awareness is also present in the body. Scan your body as though a river flowing through. Start at the crown feel. Any warmth or coolness slide down your forehead, around the eyes, cheeks, jaw. If you meet a stiff place, don't squeeze to soften. It just linger there for half a breath as you pause a little longer before a bend in the road. Continue sliding down, neck, shoulders, upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, hands, each finger. Then onto chest, back, abdomen, hips, thighs, knees, calves, ankles, feet. Each location is a little bus stop. Smile as you pass. No need to purchase anything. Only leave the sight of you. By the time you reach your toes, rest for 2 breaths, then reverse and go upward. One up and down is a cycle of attention, and your body will respond by opening a few windows you did not know it has. In a crowd, wide awareness means keeping a gentle radius around yourself. You go to the market, people calling out goods, changing hands, bargaining voices, the smell of spices, all merging like a river with many tributaries. Let yourself have a soft circle made of breath, the radius, just the span of your outstretched arms in your imagination. Inside that circle is the place where your heartbeat can be heard clearly. Outside that circle, the world continues its conversation. You do not build a wall, you simply draw a line for the flow to know how to curve. Strange, though, when that soft circle appears, the collisions drop, the harsh words hurt less, and you dissolve into the crowd without losing yourself. In dialogue, wide awareness allows you to hear under the words. When someone speaks a sharp sentence, try hearing their breath. Is it fast or slow? Look at their shoulders. Are they raising or falling? Beneath the sentence, there is something seeking safety. If you respond by giving that something another step to stand on, the conversation is less likely to fall apart. For example, before rebutting, acknowledge a part of what they're trying, or a difficulty they might be carrying. Not to concede the argument, but to open the space. When there is space, both minds can enter. If there is no space, the minds stand outside the door, and the heat fights for the chair. In creation, wide awareness means knowing when to step outside the picture you're painting. You are writing, stop and read with your ears like an outsider. You are drawing, step back 3 paces. You are composing, mute one instrument and listen to the structure beneath. In this way, you alternate between the spotlight of focus and the sky of awareness. The spotlight helps you draw a precise line. The sky helps you not lose the whole. When these two alternate fluidly, the peace breathes. With the body, wide awareness is also the harbor for tension. When you feel tired, don't only look at the tired spot. Open awareness to the parts that are not tired. The shoulder hurts. Feel how your feet are steady on the floor. The belly hurts. Feel how your belly still softens as you breathe. The fingers hurt. Feel how warm they still are. When the parts not hurt are named, the brain is no longer monopolized by the single signal of discomfort, and you gain capacity to cope. This is not denial of pain. It is placing pain in the context of a body that still has many calm areas. The right context always reduces the power of pain. Lastly, wide awareness reminds you of the sky. Above the city, there is a patch of blue that doesn't belong to anyone. On a low-cloud day, the sky does not vanish. You are just standing too close to the mist. Open a window. Look up. Let your eyes touch a point far away. Allow the muscles around the face to soften, like sunlight stretching across a field. Just a few breaths of that, and you've given your nervous system an ancient signal space is larger than the problem. When your body memory receives that signal often enough in hard hours, you will suddenly remember to open a window inside, and the breeze will find the way in. When the power of wide awareness sits down next to the lamp of focus, you will notice life wobbling less between tight and loose. Everything will be like a piece of music with crescendos and quiets. but nowhere so loud. It breaks the structure. You can stay long without being depleted, sit long without being tangled, love long without wearing out. From here, we move forward to Chapter 7, where the balance between effort and ease is sharpened like tuning a string, so it has backbone and silk overlay. But before we step there, please place one breath like a full stop at the end of the passage. Breathe in and know you are here. Breathe out and forgive all the times you forgot. Just enough for another door to open. No creak. Only the sound of the hinge oiled. We step into Chapter 7, where the balance between effort and ease is practiced, like tuning a stringed instrument, so the tone has structure, yet softness. Over many years, we are used to living on one of two riverbanks. One bank is pushing until exhaustion, eyes red, shoulders tense, sleep thin. The other bank is drifting until lost, pursing, and then releasing, starting, then abandoning. Intentions bloom, then wilt like a flower without sun. Both banks tire us in different ways. Tired from pushing, tired from letting go. But between the banks, there is a current called just enough. There, the oar touches water at just the right depth. The body leans forward at just the right angle. The rhythm of arms connects without rushing. The boat goes steadily, the sound of water rising, then falling, like an honest sentence. Long ago, there was a student who asked his teacher to teach him meditation. He was a lute player. He thought meditation was surely about straining the mind to be unshakable. The teacher just smiled and told him to tune his lute. At first, he tightened the strings too much. The strings snapped. The sound shattered like a glass dropped on stone. The teacher told him to replace the string. Next time, he was afraid of snapping, so he left the string lax. He played, and the sound was hollow, dull, without spark. The teacher nodded, then told him to find the middle point, tighten a bit, loosen a bit, until the tone brushed the skin, and then entered bone. When the sound sounded, no one in the room felt discomfort, but everyone knew themselves touched. The teacher said, meditation is the same. If effort is too high, the mind snaps. If letting go is too much, the mind clouds. Between the extremes is where the breath meets its soulmate presence. In life, signs of too much tension are easy to notice. You feel you cannot breathe though the room is wide. You hear many powerful verbs in your head and many commands aimed at yourself. You feel your facial muscles being pulled up by an invisible string, your inner voice higher in pitch than usual. Oppositely, the sign of too much looseness is the loss of definition in each motion, a promise to yourself breaking without hearing the cracking sound time stretching like a wet fabric dragging. Between those two signal zones are tiny thresholds. If you learn to listen, in time, you'll twist the tuning knob and return to the middle way. Practice a very specific listening. Before you start a work session, sit quietly and ask your body a short question. Today, do I need more effort or less effort? Don't let the head answer. Let the shoulders answer. Let the eyes answer. Let the neck answer. If your shoulders respond with a slight tension, as if a string is waiting to be loosened, you know you need less effort. If your eyes respond with blur, you know you need more structure. If your neck replies with a heavy creak, you know you need to stand up, stretch, drink water before sitting. That dialogue only takes a minute, but it prevents an hour of misrhythm. Once you're started, set a small timer for the work session, not to pressure, but to keep. A 25-minute loop is a reasonable cue for many because it's the length at which the string still holds its resonance before needing slack to cool. Within the work session, recognize 3 states of mind. State 1 is pushing when your hands move faster than your thoughts. The letters type before their meaning. The cursor darting like a bird chased. State 2 is settling, when each sentence sits down like a guest who knows how to stay. State 3 is drifting when thoughts stray beyond the margin into distant fields. None of these states is the enemy. All 3 are messengers. When you notice you're pushing, take 1 extra long exhale. When you notice you're drifting, take 1 deeper inhale. When you are settled, continue with a natural breath, like you're speaking to someone you love. The breath is your hand tuning the string, not urgent, not harsh, just enough. A small tip for staying in the middle. Divide effort into very small steps and give them names. Instead of thinking, I must finish everything today, say, now I write the first paragraph. Instead of calling the whole mountain of tasks before you call a single stair. Each stair carries effort you can handle. Stepping up doesn't require you to hold your breath. When you stand on the next stair, you feel more confident without arrogance, calmer without laziness. Confidence arises when the body experiences many small completions. Arrogance arises when the head tells a big story about itself, but the body has no evidence. The small completions are evidence. They are the pebbles laid along the path. With each step, a pebble. Then, when you look back, the road has become without needing trumpets. There are also days when real effort is required. Meditation doesn't demand you live always in a comfort zone. There are deadlines to meet, trains to catch. But even while pushing, You can keep a quiet center, like a dancer spinning but keeping her gaze fixed. That point is the breath anchored deep in the belly. You might type fast, but your belly remains soft. You might speak decisively, but your shoulders still drop. You might decide firmly, but your chest still has space for silence between two sentences. When the center remains soft, the periphery may race without snapping. On this journey, be cautious of the trap of excessive self-control. Some hear about balance and turn themselves into a project to be optimized. They measure every breath, note every change, erect a monitoring system for all their emotions. For a while, things seem to improve, but then the body and mind grow weary from playing the guard in every corner. Balance is not rigid discipline. Balance is the civility of rhythm. Rhythm arises from conversation, from listening to one another, from allowing yourself to be imperfect and still worthy to sit at the table. If one day you happen to overdo it, notice it and smile kindly at yourself. If the next day you happen to slack too much, notice it and gently set a frame. Small adjustments, not punishments, are what reassure the nervous system. Training the body is where we see this lesson clearly. If you lift weights beyond your capacity, the muscle tears harmfully, and the next day your mind fears returning. If you train too lightly, the muscle does not receive the signal to grow. The body's lesson teaches the mind's lesson. A 10-minute consistent meditation each morning is better than an hour and 3 meals of scattered attempt. A 1-hour deep focus session with light breaks is better than 3 hours of strained eyes in haze. A clear, warm sentence is better than a flurry of arguments that chills the whole room. All of these are strings of the same instrument. A blacksmith once said, "He does not swing his hammer arbitrarily. He listens to the color of the fire. When the steel glows to a certain hue, then the hammer strikes. If it is too hot, the steel softens. The blow echoes wrong chips flay like rain. If it is not hot enough, the hammer only makes the steel harder, making cracks. The craftsman's ear discerns the color, not showing off force. We are the same. After many breaths of presence, your eyes will know the color of the day. Some days you need one extra pause. Some days you need to turn home early. Some days you need to ask for help. Some days you only need another glass of water. The ordinary actions such as these are how we keep our own flame burning just so. To concretize balance in a day, you might try a 3-level rhythm model. Level 1 is the micro rhythm of the breath. Every 20 to 30 minutes, place 3 anchor breaths, like a latch. Level 2 is the mid-rhythm of work. Divide the day into sessions of opening and closing. clear content, clear time with space for surprise. Level 3 is the macro rhythm of life. In the week, set aside one session where you intentionally slow. Do not pack the schedule thickly so that randomness of goodness can drop by. When all 3 levels align, you rarely get swept off center by unexpected waves because your foundation has elasticity. In relationships, balancing effort and ease shows in how you keep boundaries, but still open the door. You can show up for someone without carrying their load. You can listen without getting pulled into an emotional whirlpool. You can say, "This is what I can do today. And this is what needs more time," with a voice that is not harsh. Effort here is honesty and courage. Ease here is gentleness and respect. With both present, the encounter becomes richer, and neither side is depleted. In creativity, balance shows in knowing when to hold structure and when to allow yourself to wander. You schedule a writing block and keep it, but within that block, you allow a side path to talk with an idea that surfaced. You compose a photo's layout carefully, but you're ready to squint and see a stray ray of sun on the wall that shifts the focal point. You draft a plan, but you leave blank spaces so life can write in too. It is those blank spaces, once feared, that let the breeze letting the work breathe. Another subtle point is the balance between caring for yourself and challenging yourself. If you always soothe yourself whenever you meet difficulty, you inadvertently teach yourself that difficulty is a signal to retreat. If you always throw yourself into steep slopes, you teach yourself that achievement is the only thing worthy of love. Both tilt you out of center. Instead, adopt a twin principle when difficulty appears. First soothe, then assign a task. Soothe so your nervous system drops from the alert edge. Assign a task so your intellect receives a specific mission, step 1, step 2. When you complete step 1, reward with a breath, then step on. You are both your own good friend and your own good teacher. Now you can try a small experiment right now to feel the just right degree. Sit with a straight spine, but without locking the knees. Imagine that above your crown, there is a string hanging a small leaf. Just enough tension so the leaf does not fall, not so much that the leaf trembles. Bring your breath into the belly and let each exhale be a little longer than the inhale. Place your hand on your thigh and feel the warmth under the palm. Ask your body, am I overdoing it? If yes, exhale a little longer. Ask next, am I underdoing it? If yes, add a small intention for the next 3 minutes. Then begin. 3 minutes of just right is a seed. Plant many seeds. you will have a garden. And because this balance will struggle to stand if lacking a source of warmth behind it, we invite. Chapter 8, the chapter of compassion as a smoldering flame that keeps the house never quite cold. Compassion does not make you weak. It makes you durable. Compassion does not remove boundaries. It makes boundaries soft and clear. Compassion is not only outward emotional orientation, but first how you look at yourself as a companion, not as a project to be fixed. When compassion is present, effort no longer smells of force, ease no longer becomes irresponsible abandonment. The two banks of the river meet, and the current becomes a kindly stretch, a small story. A wounded bird fell into the courtyard of a temple early one morning. The monk's bell was about to ring. They were walking faster than usual. One of them stopped, picked up the bird, placed it in a small bamboo basket lined with dry leaves, then lingered a few steps behind the group, entering the hall. When he reached the main hall, he paused at the doorway so his own rush could calm, then entered with his steps aligned to the moment. Some strict monks might say he was late, but anyone with eyes to see knew he had arrived exactly on time with his heart. Compassion does not abolish discipline. Compassion brings discipline back to its purpose, warming life. When the purpose is held, the method finds its path. In your work, compassion toward yourself means placing your story of effort into a human frame. You slow down one day because of a headache. You do not spin a long self-accusation story. You tell a short care story. Drink, water walk, 10 minutes under the sky, reduce screen time. You mess up an email. You don't ruminate on a long self-blame script. You just correct it and say one clear apology. You are tired because you've been running for many days. You don't need to speak harshly to your strength. You just schedule a meeting with yourself in the park on Sunday afternoon. Those meetings return you to center via gentle road, not via ambulance. Outward compassion is also the art of seeing the person beneath the role they play. The person who makes life hard for you might be afraid of something very small or very large. The person curt with you might be carrying a heavy sack you did not see. This is not an excuse for wrongdoing, but it opens a path for repair without extra harm. Before reacting, exhale and silently ask, what might they be afraid of? Just posing the question. The tone of your voice shifts half a tone. When the tone shifts half a tone, the result changes more than half a lifetime. Compassion is also how you teach yourself to let go at the right time from stories that do not belong to you. Some matters you can help. Others you can only stand beside. Standing beside without walking in is a great capacity. It demands a heart warm enough not to turn cold and a back straight enough not to be pulled into unnecessary whirlwinds. You say, "I am here if you need," and you keep your word. That simple sentence makes many people cry when they hear it, because in a noisy world, such a sentence is like a blanket. When someone has a blanket, they can sleep a bit. And when they sleep a bit, they hurt others less. Try a very simple exercise. On each of your next 3 exhalations, send a small blessing in 3 directions. Direction 1, to tomorrow's you may. You have a cup of water early and a ray of sunlight on your shoulder. Direction 2, to a loved one or someone difficult. May they have a small good message in their inbox. Direction 3, to a stranger walking down the street. May they receive a smile from someone. No need to believe in big miracles. Just believe. Small blessings soften your gaze. When the gaze softens, the balance between effort and ease finds a wider seat, because you stop treating life like a battleground and start treating it like a road with many rest stops. From this warm foundation, the upcoming chapters will unfold naturally, like a stream returning home. We will enter chapter 9, where returning to the present is no longer a technique, but a reflex. Whenever you stray, you don't need to find a compass because your hand has grown accustomed to resting on your chest. Whenever noise rises, you don't need to build a wall because your feet have grown accustomed to stepping out onto the porch. Whenever you are weary, you don't need to act because your eyes have grown accustomed to seeking a patch of sky. But before crossing that doorway, please place again a full stop with a breath. Breathe in. Give thanks for the efforts that have brought you this far. Breathe out. Allow everything imperfect to sit down in a corner without needing to stand and be punished. Everything is enough for tonight. And when enough is present, the path ahead will open in its own gentle way. No trumpet, no drum, only the sound of your foot touching the ground, clear and warm. We step into chapter 9, where returning to the present is no longer a technique to remember, but a familiar reflex, like your hand instinctively finding your chest in a moment of emotion. From the start of this journey, you have learned how to sit into the breath as though into a familiar chair. In your house, you have learned to set down some heavy things, to walk lightly in a room full of sounds, to tune the string just enough to kindle the warm flame of compassion. Now, all that gathers into one simple truth being here. Here, no decoration is needed, no slogan, no vow, Here is an open space where you place your foot, a breath space, where you place your breath, a tiny point of light, where you place your gaze. Here is a door with no latch, a gate with no leaves. It is what the masters called the gateless gate. The gateless gate does not mean there is no door. But when you stop seeking the door, outside, you realize you have been standing inside all along. Long ago, there was someone who traveled through mountain ranges looking for the gate to the way, carrying his questions like stones in his pocket. At each place he arrived, he asked, "Where is the gate?" The masters only pointed to a misty track in the dawn. He walked on and on, across moss-wet paths, over rope bridges, laden with dew up hills, with grass soft like blankets. One day, he met an old woman selling tea by the road. She poured him a cup and asked, "Where are you going?" He replied, "I am looking for the gate." She smiled and said, "Drink this cup first." He took a sip. The warmth touched his tongue. The leaves' bittersweet taste spread, the wind whispered through bamboo. And as he set the cup down, he heard a click inside him, like the latch of a door falling free. No gate appeared for all along. He had never been outside. Returning to the present is like that. It is not finding more, but subtracting one layer between you and the moment. If you ask how you'll know you have returned, the answer is often very ordinary. You hear the sound of your sandals in the hallway half a tone more clearly. You feel the warmth of the teacup against your hand, like a little wave. You notice your eyes resting on the other person's face, one beat longer. You remember to close the door gently. You no longer need to chase everything. The world hasn't changed, but a veil in your mind has lifted. When the fog lifts, all shapes have their depth. You don't need to force the day to be beautiful. You only need to be present enough to see the beauty already there. Try an exercise of returning through walking. Stand still for a beat. Breathe out, then lift your right foot as if removing a leaf. Feel the slight slide past the ankle. Set it down as if placing a cup. Shift very little weight, just enough so the earth knows you are home. Then lift your left foot. Repeat. You don't need to walk so slowly that it becomes awkward, just enough so each step is a quiet greeting to the ground. Beneath the earth lies a deep, thick beat. When you place your foot with presence, that beat travels into your bones. When your bones remember the rhythm, your head stops needing to think about balance. The head is free. The heart is free. You can hear your own voice clearer. 10 steps like this across a room are enough to change the tone of the next phone call. 30 steps across a hallway are enough to change how you open the door and speak the first sentence. 100 steps across a street are enough to change your posture coming home. Returning to the present does not deny the past or belittle the future. It simply places both in their proper place. The past is a store of experience to be thanked. The future is a garden of seeds to be planted. And the present is the soil. Without the soil, seeds do not sprout, and the store of the past is mere display. When you treat the present like soil, you stop craving results like polished objects. Instead, you engage in quiet tending. You water a little, pull a weed, put shade on a hot day, open a path for rain when dry. Day by day, you become a gardener, not a seeker. One of the greatest obstacles in returning is the habit of concluding too quickly. You hear a sentence, and your mind spins a story. You see a glance, and your heart jumps to judgment. Examine that habit with a small pause. Ritual, called the soft period. Each time you are about to conclude, place a soft period in your mind. A soft period is not hesitation. It is a little stare before entering the house. On that stare, you breathe one breath. Ask a supplemental question. Notice one more detail, and a second later, your conclusion has changed. Different enough to save a call, enough to keep warmth in a relationship, enough to prevent closing a door inside yourself. Practice the soft period for a few weeks, and you will find the corners of your house less jammed, for the furniture stops being pulled back and forth by rushed decisions. A practical way to anchor the present into tomorrow's schedule is to create return markers. Choose 4 places in the day you will surely pass. For example, the front doorknob, the coffee machine or kettle, the bathroom mirror, and the pillow before sleep. Assign each place a reminder. At the doorknob, 1 full breath. At the kettle, a small smile for the aroma. At the mirror, place your hand on your chest and say softly, "I am here." At the pillow, 1 quiet, "Thank you for today." That's it. These 4 markers are like 4 oil lamps along the road, few but enough for your feet to know the way. When those 4 lamps become familiar, if you wish, you may add a 5th at a location that fits your life. Maybe the handle of your chair at work, or the fridge door, or the steering wheel. Each lamp is a time coming home. There are times when the present hurts. A bad message, an anxiety, a parting. Returning with pain is a different courage than turning away. When you turn away, the pain stands behind you and grows in silence. When you return, you set the pain down in front of you and breathe with it. Name it with a simple word: sadness, fear, worry, regret. Ask it, what do you need right now? Water a friend, sleep. Offer what you can. Promise that you will return and talk with it at a specific hour. When pain is acknowledged and scheduled, it stops demanding to interrupt every other meeting. This is kind treatment for your inner self, and also how you keep your path home in the days of strong wind. At the summit of returning is silence. Silence here is not about not speaking or doing, but about no superfluous noise in every action. When you pour water, you only hear the water pour, not extra voices of yesterday's complaints or fear of tomorrow's news. When you gaze at someone, you only see the eyes speaking, not the shadows of all other times crowding in. This silence cannot be forced. It can only be invited. And the invitation is your breath placed steadily, like the steps of a night watchman. Invite often, and silence will arrive like a guest who knows the time, not hurry, not late, opening the door gently. You might conclude this chapter with a short meditation called Opening the House Within. Sit or lie down as you like. Inhale and imagine a worn wooden door with a little clay bell hanging above. Exhale and feel your hand touch the doorknob. Not cold, not hot, just fitting your palm. Inhale and hear the bell ring very softly. Exhale and push the door open. Step inside. Inside, there is the smell of dry wood, the fragrance of warm tea, a chair placed by the window. You sit down, place your hand on your knee. Look outside at a patch of sky. No need to do anything else. Just sit there. 5 rounds of breath. Then close the door in your heart. Next time you need, you'll know the way home without anyone pointing. When returning becomes a reflex, you will find you lose your way less, even when you are moving fast. You get lost less in a major project, less in a difficult dialogue, less in a day full of messages. You see where your axis stands. From that axis, you can rotate many times without dizziness. This is the greatest gift of meditation in modern life, not a superpower, just a very human power, the power to be present. Now the 3-hour journey nears its shore. We enter the closing section like a river flowing into its quiet bend before merging into the sea. In this conclusion, I invite you to do only one thing. Listen. Listen to the sound of the room you are in. Listen to the night passing through the window gap. Listen to yourself breathing. These 3 sounds form a very small harmony. But if you listen deeply, you will find that this is the longest lasting music we have. No need for complex melody, no need for costly instruments, no need propulsive rhythm. Just the breath, the room, and the night. When these three stand beside each other, a space of peace opens like a pool of water in a forest. Close your eyes if you can. Breathe in, recall an image from tonight's journey that touched you most deeply. It might be the arrow traveling on the breath, or the lake's surface calming so the moon appears, or the finely tuned string, or the wounded bird placed in a basket of leaves, or the wooden door opening into the home within. Hold that image on the tip of your mind like a drop of honey. Breathe out. Let the drop of honey spread in your chest. Don't force it, just let it spread. Repeat 3 times. Then imagine a very ordinary tomorrow. You wake up, put your feet on the floor, feel the coolness under your feet. You open the door. The light greets your eyes like a hello. You sip a glass of water. Feel it slide down your throat into your belly like water into a well. You power on your machine. Take 3 breaths, then begin. You meet someone. You listen an extra half tone. You speak half the thorn. You pass through the afternoon stop at the door. Before entering home, breathe, then open. You lay your back on the pillow. Say a small thank you. No loud miracles, but there is a silent miracle called being here. And each time you are here, the world has one less place of noise. Before we say goodbye, I send you this modest blessing of peace. May you have one breath to begin, one breath to shift, one breath to close. May you meet exactly the people who make your heart soft yet strong. May you have enough shade when sunlight glares, enough sun ray when the day is cloudy. May the house within you always keep an empty chair for yourself on the days you are tired. If tonight's journey helped you lighten somewhat, and if you want a little path to return to every week, you're welcome to stay with the channel and hit subscribe so that next time you simply open the door and see a light. Each week, I will light another lamp by this riverside so that those walking late have a path to see. Thank you for sitting with us to this minute. Thank you for listening with a heart that knows how to breathe. Now please allow 1 minute of silence. No music, no words, just the breath and you. When the minute passes, open your eyes. The room remains the same, the night remains the same, but very likely you will notice among the familiar outlines a very thin layer of light standing still. That layer of light asks nothing but for you not to forget it. And when you do not forget it, you hold in your hand the secret of meditation for a focused and peaceful life. We now move into the closing section in fullness, like a river's slow bend before it enters the sea, where all the stories and practices of the 3 hours settle into a clear stream. At this moment, you do not need to recall all chapter names. You do not need to bundle all the metaphors into one bouquet. Just be here with your body, breathing, with the room peacefully, with the night laying its hand on your shoulder. Let the ending become a small ritual, but strong enough to carry you through the days ahead. I invite you to do the following. Short journey. Release your body. Collect the breath. Wash. Calm into the senses. Open. Compassion, like a warm flame. Then sit still in a quiet minute, as if watching a star fall slowly across the sky. All unfolds gently, like the sound of leaves brushing each other. Not one thing to force, not one requirement to meet just a life being granted wholeness. First, the body. Let your body find a posture of gratitude. If you sit, let your spine be straight, like a bamboo stalk but not rigid. Let the crown of the head lift slightly, as if a leaf rests there without falling. If you lie down, let your spine touch the bed like a stream, just leaving sunlight, legs relaxed, like twin blades of grass. Close your eyes if you can, or let your eyelids drop so that the external light becomes a thin mist. Now breathe in normally and listen to the inner surface of your forehead, where the day often creases from unfinished things. Breathe out as a hand smoothing the forehead, letting each furrow settle like soil after rain. Shift your attention down around your eyes. Breathe in, noting the subtle warmth near the corners. Breathe out, as if opening a little window for the wind through. Move to the jaw. Breathe in, knowing there is a habit of clenching there when you overdo things. Breathe out, and part your lips a thread to let the jaw know that tonight it need not grip. Let shoulders drop half a finger width. Let arms rest like placed on a soft sill. Let your shoulder blades touch the chair or mattress with familiarity. Flow down chest. Breathe in, feeling the chest as a room with a door to a garden. Breathe out, letting that room clear of unnecessary furniture. Belly breathe in, allowing it to gently rise like a small smile. Breathe out, letting the smile settle into a warm current. Hips, thighs, knees, calves, ankles, each place you pass through, stopping half a beat as if admiring a wild flower, by the roadside, not picking, only seeing. Feet place fully on the floor or sheet, with a sensation of being supported, like a promise that for a few minutes you don't need to supervise the world, you only need to be here. Now, the breath. Place your hand on where you want to house the breath tonight. Perhaps chest, perhaps belly, perhaps the bridge of the nose where the air streams. We will take 3 rounds of breath with the structure of a complete sentence. Breathe in and count silently. 1, 2, 3, pause, like a comma. Breathe out. Count 1, 2, 3, 4. Finish with a full stop. Round 2. You don't need to count anymore. Just hear the sentence. Your breath is speaking. I am here. Round 3. Let that sentence become a canopy for any thought that visits. Any thought can come, but no thought must stay. They pass through the porch. Bow quietly, then dissolve into the night like droplets of rain. Next, we wash stillness into the senses so you feel the world as if meeting it again for the first time. Hearing, open your ears wide, listen to the furthest sound you can detect. Maybe a late car wind, brushing a roof, a distant insect. Gradually, pull the sound closer. Sounds inside the house, fan humming, fridge running, fabric rustling as you inhale. Closer still, your own breath. Then extend outward again. Touch. Notice your hands feel the edge of your skin where it meets cooler air. Feel the points where your body rests on the chair or bed, like small dots on paper. Smell. You don't need to seek a fragrance. Just notice the scent of the room you are in. Wood fabric water, the special mixture of items that have lived with you for days. Sight even with eyes closed. You might feel a thin layer of light behind the lids, like a sheer curtain, changing shade with each breath. Taste. Only recognize a very slight residual taste on your tongue, neither pleasant nor unpleasant, simply a trace of the day. When all 5 doors of sense are touched so gently, your inner home opens to a calm stretch, and you feel broad enough to contain a nameless stillness. Now compassion, the warm flame that keeps the home from ever being quite cold. On the next 3 exhalations, send a simple blessing in 3 directions. First breath, send it to your present self, who has walked the rough curves and still remained present. May you lighten 1 layer on your shoulder and be gentle enough to forgive the times you misstepped. Second breath, send to someone you are thinking of, near or far cherished or difficult. May they sleep 1 beat deeper tonight, and tomorrow morning have a small ray of light rest on their threshold. Third breath. Send to a stranger you will never know by name, someone somewhere on another path. May the encounter of their day carry half the thorn away. You do not need to prove anything. By these blessings, simply let your heart do what it already knows. Open a window. Now, as the longest note in the piece, we enter the minute of silence. No words, no song, no requirement. If you wish, let the last thought of this guidance drift from your mind like a small boat leaving the pier. Then sit still. Count silently 5 slow rounds by tracking the breath in and out. But don't set a target. Don't expect a special feeling. If in those 5 rounds you forget to count for a second, that's okay, because you may already be in the place without numbers, where stillness names itself with a very thin layer of light. Let that layer of light stand still in you, like the morning star preparing to rise on the horizon. Now, as you open your eyes, do not rush to stand up. Let this closing section continue a little further, like a gentle afterglow. Look around the room with the gaze of a traveler who has just paused by. Quietly, name one object that has been with you all this time. It might be the chair, the table, a book, a potted plant. Silently say a small thank you in your mind. Slowly bring your hand to your chest. Pause, then place your other hand on your belly. Pause again. At this moment, the 2 hands are not holding anything. They simply remind you that being here is enough. To ensure that this ending carries forward into your upcoming days, let us close with a very small commitment, a seed that can grow in the soil of your life without needing heavy fertilizer. Choose one ritual of return that you will repeat each day, just one, very ordinary. It might be a full breath before you unlock your door at home. It might be placing a glass down on a table with full presence, hearing the small tap instead of letting the glass fall. It might be 10 mindful steps in your hallway before you start a call. It may be writing 3 short lines before sleep. One thing you did, one thing you learned, one thing you are grateful for. Just one ritual, and keep it like the person who carries a lantern along the riverbank, unassuming, not seeking credit, just not letting the wind extinguish the flame. After a month, you will see that the path has acquired linking points of light. And if you wish to go further with this journey, here is a small map for you to carry. At the start of the week, pick one theme that is neatly contained for 7 days, such as breath steps, hands, words, letting go, awareness, compassion. Each day, you only practice that theme in a single act. For example, during the week of breath, Day 1. Take 3 breaths before you open your phone in the morning. Day 2. Take 3 breaths before you reply to a difficult message. Day 3. Take 3 breaths before you eat. Day 4. Take 3 breaths before you step into your home. Day 5. Take 3 breaths before a meeting. Day 6. Take 3 breaths while your car is stopped at a red light. Day 7. Take 3 breaths before going to sleep. The next week, shift to steps, and so on. As the themes cycle around again, they will no longer feel like lessons, but like gentle habits. In the last moment, let me repeat the simplest truth of the entire journey. Focus is not strain. Peace is not stillness. Focus is the presence bright enough in a person doing one thing. Peace is the presence warm enough in a heart that does not need to earn love. When bright and warm meet, life has flavor. That flavor is not loud, not harsh. It is simply like a sip of tea at the perfect steep. You do not need to hunt for that flavor. You just need to create the small conditions for it to reveal itself. Those conditions are the breath, the step, the word, the way you set a thing on the table, the way you open a door, the way you close a day. If this journey has helped your shoulders drop half a centimeter, if your breath is longer, by 1 count, if your gaze is kinder by half a tone, then I invite you to stay with the channel as you stay with a river bend that has lights. Please subscribe so that each week, when the night arrives or when the day becomes too bright, you will have a little path returning. There, we will continue placing more lamps along the shore, tell stories, both known and unknown. Practice small gestures that are deep enough to open one after another, the doors that never had latches. You may share this session with someone who needs a quiet seat. Perhaps with one more lamp in place, someone's path becomes bright enough to pass through a long night. Now allow me to leave your room quietly, like a night watchman, locking the back gate after dawn begins to creep. I leave on your table a tiny piece of paper with only 3 words you have heard many times, but each time feel new here. Now, whenever you see them, take 1 full breath. And that alone will be enough for that thin layer of light to stand again in you, enough for you to remember that the secret of meditation for a focused and peaceful life does not lie in some distant place, but in exactly how you just sat, just breathed, just listened to the night pass by. Wishing you a deep sleep and a tomorrow of gratitude. When you need, open the door. I will wait for you by the riverside, where the bell is distant and the lamp still has oil. The night still holds a quiet layer across the window frame, and because you are still here, we can let the journey spread further, like a river branching into little streams, feeding the fields on either bank. This part is not a new chapter in the structural sense, but the afterlight of the full 3 hours, where the things that touched you now soak into the wood grain of tomorrow. Consider it an after-dinner stroll. Slow, no destination, but each step letting the body understand more deeply the lesson of being still. As you walk, you may remember the scent of the wind in the garden. We visited the tuned string. We adjusted just right. The wounded bird placed in the basket of dry leaves, the home within with the wooden door and clay bell. Each memory is a seed, and this next part is simply the rain. Morning is the time many lose themselves fastest because of the crash of signals. So if you wish to preserve the clarity of focus and the warmth of peace, begin with a light ritual. Upon waking, before you open your phone or step out of bed, place your hand on your belly and feel 1 breath in and 1 breath out. No counting, just knowing. Then put your feet on the floor as if touching the surface of a quiet lake. Feel the coolness run through your foot. Then spread up the leg like a gentle current. Stand still. 1 beat and ask yourself, what quality do I want to carry today? Maybe openness, warmth, clarity, endurance. No need many words, just 1 word. That word will be the small light you carry in your pocket all day, so that when the sky turns gray, you still have a ray. In the first hours of work, regard your desk like a musical instrument, and you the tuner. Before you play, adjust your seat so your back does not do your thighs. Work set both feet on the floor so your body does not wait for permission each time it wishes to stand. When you open your document, don't dive in. Pour a little stillness in with 3 breaths, like warming the pot before tea. Then you write the first sentence as if placing the first stone in a foundation. The foundation does not need decoration. It only needs to be straight and strong. Once the first sentence is down, the next 2 breathe easier. You continue. And if, during the process, a disturbance calls you away, you stop for half a beat. Let your eyes shift beyond the screen. A little. Let your shoulders drop, half a finger's width, then return as though never interrupted. These small pauses will happen. The path of life does not promise a bump-free journey, but among the potholes always lie even stretches, And if you learn to see them, the ride is less jarring. Mid-afternoon is often a shallow stretch, like a river hitting a shallow. The boat taps the bottom and makes a low sound. This is when you're likely to be harsh with yourself. Assume your energy is gone. Don't hurry to believe the story. Instead, try shifting off your chair for exactly 1 minute. Stand by the window, hand on the ledge. Look out at a distant point. Let the small muscles around your eyes stop making words. Let the spine stop carrying intentions that are expired. Inhale silently. Name the tiredness. Exhale silently. Nod in agreement with it, like greeting an old friend. Agreement does not mean giving up. It means releasing one layer of resistance that wastes energy. When the resistance falls away, you have just a little lightness to continue the path. Evening is the riverbank, where the boat moors the garden bed, where the gardener washes their hands. Before you enter the house, pause beneath the porch for a beat and silently say, "What is done? I leave outside. What is not done, I place into tomorrow with a bank and a pier." Then open the door as you have learnt, with a hand present, with a gesture of care. Night is when relationships need warmth, and warmth does not demand many words. Place the phone aside. Wash your face with warm water. Look into your partner's or family member's eyes. A beat longer. Ask a question, not to check, but to understand. When someone speaks, listen below the voice. Listen below the breath. Many tensions vanish simply because you didn't add a sentence of right or wrong. Sometimes what someone needs is a chair, not a judge. If you live alone, warmth can still be kindled by small rituals. Set the kettle to boil. Play an instrumental piece. Line up your books. Wipe a surface water, a plant. Kindness to the room is kindness to your nervous system. A gentle room equals a gentle heart. A gentle heart equals a gentler breath. A gentler breath means sleep with less fight. Before sleep, write the 3 lines as promised. One thing done, even if small. One thing learned, even if little. One thing to be grateful for, even if ordinary. Those 3 lines are a thin blanket over the day, so it may rest. Occasionally, there will be emergency days, some event that makes your whole plan collapse, like a stack of dishes clattering into the edge of the countertop. This is when the simplest techniques rescue you. The 60-second cool-down technique is one of them. Anywhere you are, inhale for 4 counts, hold for 2 counts, exhale for 6 counts, hold for 2 counts, and repeat 4 rounds. During these rounds, do not narrate stories. Just fix your gaze on one point, maybe a corner of the table, a groove in the wall, the molding on the door. As the breath lengthens, the nervous system pauses the red alert alarm. The distortions in the brain's meaning centers ease. You make decisions you regret less. You don't need blind faith. Just try it a few times in real situations, and the body will supply its own proof. Some people say they cannot keep habits because their living context is full of collisions. The advice for them is not to raise more fences, but to seed harder roots. Hard roots here are practices that can stick to the day naturally, without heavy willpower. Place the kettle of water near where you sit, so the drinking frequency rises by its own. Place a notebook and pen on the pillow, so the 3-line journal happens like a spontaneous ending. Stick a small paper on the doorknob with the words, "Here, now," so each touch becomes a reminder. Drape a soft, special jacket reserved for your meditation hour, so that the moment of fabric touch signals the quiet time has arrived. These hard roots demand little effort, yet they last. Others ask how to keep compassion alive in competitive environments. The answer is not withdrawal, but relocating the heart in your workplace's house. Place the heart in the living room, where all meetings pass through, not locked in a private room. Before a tough negotiation, send a silent blessing for both sides to reach the outcome with least harm. When you must say no, say it with a voice that has space, not pressure. When you must say yes, say it with a voice that has edges, not overflow. You still pursue the goal. Still hold boundaries, but you do not dry the ground. You will walk together on tomorrow. Where the heart is polite, the mind works long and well. Perhaps the subtlest thing remaining is the story of joy. Without joy, focus becomes drudgery. Peace becomes solitude. Joy here is not loud. It's like the last ray of daylight lying on a kitchen wall. Learn to recognize those moments. A sentence that lands just right. A glass of water taken just when you needed it. A footstep that fits the ground just. A hug just long enough for 2 heartbeats to touch. A gaze that is actually seen. Those small joys build an internal livelihood. When the foundation is good, you seldom seek strong stimulation. The mind that does not need strong stimulation is easy to stay at home. If you sometimes feel this vision is too ideal for your life, remember, we are not building a palace. We are just erecting an awning, sufficient for the night rain. That awning is one correct breath at the right place, one greeting at the right time, one footfall placed in the right spot. If you accomplish those 3 things in one day, that day has structure. A day with structure means that even if a storm sweeps through fewer things, fall. And if they do fall, you know which to pick up first, which later. Knowing order is knowing to slow down at the right place. For those who accompany this journey and support sleep here is a very short story before you close your eyes. Imagine a dirt road after rain, low grasses on both sides, holding drops of brightness. You pass through a bamboo gate, behind which is a small house with kitchen smoke. On the doorstep lies a pair of draw sandals, now dry. You wash your hands at a water jug. The water hitting the leaves sounds like someone whispering. You enter the house. There is a chair by the window. On the table, a cup of tea already poured. You sit down, lift the cup, but do not rush to drink. Just inhale the aroma. The window is open. A gentle breeze blows. The clay bell rings softly. Once, then falls silent. In that house, there is no task to complete. There is an old friend, busy in silence beside you. You place the cup down and whisper a thank you through your breath. Then you go into sleep like you enter a house you already know. If you create content, use images and sound, you can convert these practice seeds into short frames tied to scenes. When the lake appears, let the music fade by one level, and the voice becomes softer, so the viewer hears the internal. When the tuned string is mentioned, let a single koto note touch, then withdraw just enough for the ear to remember the body. When the wounded bird story appears, overlay a warm audio layer, like a blanket. When the wooden door in the internal home opens, let a thin clay bell ring. Sound technique does not make meditation, but it opens the door for the listener to step in more easily. And in each segment, leave a beat without words, like granting the audience to hear themselves. One final thing for you who have walked this far with me. Do not demand of yourself that you keep every practice every day. On days of waves, let there be waves. On windy days, let there be wind. But whatever happens, please keep one very small lamp. Place it in the calmest corner of your house, the place you know. You only have to turn, and you will see. That lamp can be a sentence, here, now. It can be an object, a pressed leaf between book pages. It can be a sound, the very soft bell. It can be a scent, the tea you know. When you have a lamp like that, you will never truly lose your way. Now we may stand from the chair in the heart, or go to sleep, or resume a task still open. But before leaving, take one last breath, as if stamping a seal on a finished page. Breathe in to gather the parts of you that have been scattering over these 3 hours. Breathe out to release the parts you no longer need to carry. Breathe in like the first time you learnt how to live. Breathe out like the final time you learnt how to let go. When the breath ends, open your eyes, look at the room as though looking at a beloved who has already been waiting at the door from before, and smile. That smile is not because everything is perfect, but because you have just remembered an ancient secret that is also very new. The secret that focus is not the whip, but the chair. The secret that peace is not the wall, but the window. And the window, from now on, you know how to open. If you are still seated here, and the night has not yet drawn its curtains, we can weave another thin layer into the blanket of peace, like someone flipping the underside of cloth to hide a few stitches of luck. This layer of stitches has no design, no pattern, only the intention to keep warm. Let the next portion be a very gentle walk inward, where you may revisit the paths learned at a slower pace, deeper, more familiar, so that when you stand in the middle of noise, you only need to tilt your head slightly and see the way open beneath your feet. You may begin by naming the season inside you now, not the season on the calendar, but the season of your body's climate. Some days you are spring softness, pushing buds the scent of damp earth. The voice inside, shy and kind. Some days you are summer, the sun wide, will blazing like a field of yet-to-harvest grain, sweat falling, but no regret. Some days you are autumn, the wind thin, the marvel of letting go manifest in every leaf. Gratitude heavier than any logic. Some days you are winter, deep stillness, the voice inside retreating, like a creature into a den, needing warmth and patience. Whatever the season, just call it by name. Don't force summer to wear a sweater. Don't make winter swim in the river if your body trusts you and cooperates. When the body trusts, the mind settles. When the mind settles, focus and peace are not tasks to perform, but two friends who come to visit. In this room, imagine placing a chair next to where you sit and invite one part of yourself that you often neglect when you're busy. Maybe that is the little boy who feared the dark at the far end of the hallway. Maybe the young girl who left a song unfinished because she thought her voice wasn't strong enough. Maybe the adult today who still sometimes whips himself with harsh words. Invite that part to sit. Offer them a cup of tea in imagination, and do not rush. When they are ready, ask a very small question. What do you wish me to hear that I have forgotten this time? Do not propose an answer. Do not prepare a healing speech. Just listen. Sometimes all that part needs is a look of acknowledgement. You really were hurt. You really tried. You really are tired, and you deserve rest. When that acknowledgement rings, there will be a small, warm spot in your chest, like a stove flickering to life with some dry wood. That stove isn't for cooking a feast. It is to keep the house from getting cold. There are moments in life when you believe that sheer will is enough, that you can use a hammer to fix everything. But a cracked bowl sometimes needs warm milk. A stuck door sometimes needs a drop of oil. A dry garden sometimes needs the quiet of clouds instead of the hum of a pump. So do not be surprised if this part of your journey asks you to do very little, sometimes only to change one word in how you speak to yourself. Change I must into I choose. Change I have to into I agree. Change I cannot into I simply do not yet have enough information. Change I am too bad into I need to hold myself for a moment. Change. Keep pushing into let me breathe first. Those small shifts are like turning down the flame under the pot, not letting it boil over, but cooking it just enough. Recall a recent day when you lost your stillness. Maybe it was a debate online, an email sent at the wrong time, a traffic jam, a dropped shopping basket. At that moment, your mind may have become a busy after-school market, voices shouting over voices. Now in this quiet, you can return to the scene not as a pursuer, but as a map maker. Place 3 thin sheets of paper as you have learned the layer of the event, the layer of interpretation, the layer of reaction. Write very briefly each layer only a few words. When you separate the layers, you are acting like a glass worker, removing shards from your hand without tearing the skin further. Once you have separated them, you do not need to blame anyone. You do not need to vote yourself guilty. You only need to ask this question. Next time, at which point will I invite in a breath earlier? When that question appears, you have moved from post-checking to pre-checking, from late to on time. And just one moment of being on time is enough for a day to be less chaotic. Now let us walk around the house of your body. Start at the crown of your head, then the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks, the jawline, the neck, the shoulders, the arms, the chest, the belly, the hips, the thighs, the knees, the shins, the ankles, the feet. At each place you pass, you place a grain of peaceful salt. This salt is not salty. It is the type of salt that preserves stillness. On the forehead, it smooths the waves of accumulated worry. On the eyes, the salt clears the water. so you can look at others and at yourself through a clean lens. On the jawline, the salt loosens an invisible clamp that has sat too long. On the shoulders, the salt reminds you that the backpack you have carried all day may be set down on the floor for a while. On the chest, the salt keeps the flame neither too fierce nor extinguished. On the belly, the salt warms the ground. On the knees, the salt quiets the hinges so they stop creaking. On the feet, the salt softens the path beneath. When the salt is evenly scattered, you will feel your body become a house without the sound of dry hinges. Your steps will pass through the night without waking anyone. In this moment, if you wish, we can step out onto the porch of imagination, where the sky opens wider than a frame of a door. Stand there and gaze at any star. It does not matter which one, just that it is present. Say to it something as you would to a friend you haven't seen in a long time. I am still here. I am still breathing. I am still learning to slow down. I am still learning to be kind. I am still learning to not abandon myself when things are hard. The star does not answer in words, but the sky will respond with a faint feeling behind your neck, like the wind slipping through your hair. That feeling is the electric pulse of connection, something you cannot buy and do not need to prove. Maybe you are thinking about the people who will pass through your life tomorrow. Choose one of them and write an internal letter to them that you will not send, but which will rearrange the furniture in your mind's room. Begin with a short thank you, even for something small. Thank them for giving you an opportunity to practice patience, for giving you a lesson in setting boundaries, for accidentally revealing a fear you once hid. Then offer a blessing, a wish that they have enough sunshine or enough shade, depending on what they lack. Then close with a thin promise. If life brings us together again, I will try to speak half a tone lower. That is all you have, just turned a boulder in your heart into a pebble, and your bag will feel lighter tomorrow. Now return to the work you love, because peace is not about putting down the hammer. It is about holding the hammer rightly. Imagine yourself seated at your desk. The sound of the keyboard is like raindrops falling evenly onto the surface of the lake of your ideas. Each drop falls evenly. The water surface does not break. The ripples touch each other at very thin borders, forming a pattern called progress. Do not demand a big wave. Demand the ripples that are even. When they are even, they stack into a blossom. That blossom, one day, you will smell its fragrance. Not strong, just gentle. But precisely, that gentleness is what people remember. If you are a storyteller, remember that the magic of the voice is not in the number of words, but in the silences that are placed at the right spot. A good story is like a forest, with a path, with a stream, with clearings where sunlight falls, with a place for the listener to sit a while. Let each paragraph you write have a small step where the reader places their foot before stepping on. Let each idea you share have a pause where the listener takes a sip of water. Remember that on the other side of the screen, or the other side of the earbuds, is a heart that is weary, that is joyful, that worries, that hopes. And the goal is not to dump a big bowl of concepts on it, but to invite it to drink a small, warm cup. If you are in business, try looking at numbers as you would the tide. There are times when the water rises, times when the water recedes, and the safe boat does not rely on yelling into the wind, but on the anchor lines that are correctly tied. Your anchor lines are the product quality you believe in, the promise you keep the way you respond to a complaint without using thorns, the place where you say, "I do not know," and I will check the time when you accept a small loss in order to preserve a greater trust. When the anchor lines hold, the boat drifts but does not leave the dock. When the tide goes out and the riverbed is revealed at the beginning of the season, you see the map. Viewing the map, you adjust your route, and next time you go smarter. Concentrate now on the job at hand. Peace here is not letting a momentary wave assign you a name. If you are caring for a home call, your kitchen a sacred place. A slow meal does not slow down life. It gives life a place to stand. When washing vegetables, your hands sink into something cool and original that we seldom give ourselves the chance to touch. When standing by the pot, you hear the curt hiss of oil meeting water. You hear the tender tremble of the pot lid. Those sounds pull you out of the storm of the news and back into the gentle science of a meal. When you invite each other to sit down, invite as you would invite a friend who has been far away to return. Look into each other's eyes. Briefly, say a simple sentence. Today being here, together, is already precious. The dishes will learn to still themselves when the cook stills. The chopsticks and spoons will clash less when the heart beats slow. If you are hurting somewhere in your body, try changing the question from "When will I be done?" to "What do I need right now?" The first question pulls you toward lack. The second pulls you toward sufficiency. Maybe right now you need warmth, you need rest, you need water, you need to speak, you need to be quiet, you need a nurse, you need a doctor, you need friends, you need a blanket, you need sunlight, you need a song. When you meet some small part of that need, the pain does not vanish immediately, but it stops feeling abandoned. When you are no longer abandoned, the pain becomes a truthful message, not a riot. You pass through with it, not fighting against it. And in passing through, there is the gentle wisdom of the body, the kind we so often forget to ask. You may borrow a scent to open a door in memory that is gentle for you. The smell of orange peel, the smell of jasmine tea, the smell of pine wood, the smell of clothes hung in the sun, the smell of the first rain on the courtyard cement, the smell of old books. Choose a scent and place it in the house, like placing a note at the beginning of a music score. Whenever you touch that scent, take a full breath. Name a memory of safety, so that your nervous system has a little side door out of the corridors of alarm. Not everyone is born to remember by sight or sound. Some of us are born to remember by smell. Use your right door. You do not need to clutch the wrong key. On long days, when inspiration thins like the edge of a leaf eaten by the summer sun, find a little stream in physical activity. Stand up and wash your face. Wash your hands. Wash a glass, fold a towel, wipe a surface, open a window. Look at a sliver of sky. Touch a leaf on a plant. These movements are not for postponing. They are for returning the command to the body when the mind has been overused. The mind needs the body like a lamp needs oil. When the body is involved, ideas start flowing again, like a cool stream through the crevices of rock. If there is one thing you want to promise yourself after this journey, promise this: I will be gently responsible with myself. Gentle responsibility is standing in the middle when the two extremes in you want to pull apart. It is asking a question before passing judgment. It is sleeping enough without telling the story that working more is nobler. It is saying no when that protects what would break if we kept indulging. It is saying, I am sorry when I am wrong, without inviting a storm of self-criticism into the house. Gentle responsibility is an inner civility. You do not need a certificate, you only need practice. Finally, if you want to carry just one image with you, let it be the image of a chair. When you are tired, sit. When you are happy, sit. When you are sad, sit. When you are angry, sit. When you are in love, sit. When you are afraid, sit. Sitting in this sense is not about retreat. It is about choosing a steady reference point amidst all the shifting tides. The chair in your heart is where your breath knows how to return to where your hands rest on your knees, and you can still feel that you are here. When you have a chair, you do not need to find a cave to hide in. You have a living room to receive your emotional guests, serve them tea, and walk them to the door. when it is time. And you stay. You clear the table. You draw the curtains. You light a lamp. You sleep. You wake up. You open the door, and you go on doing the work you love with a heart that is ordinary but warm. Now, if the night has grown deep and your eyes begin to close, let every word fall gently from the edge of your mind, like golden leaves dropping in the right season. You do not need to hold on to a single sentence, because what belongs to you is already in your breath. Breathe in as if you are learning to live for the first time. Breathe out as if you are learning to let go for the last time. If you forget tomorrow morning, that is okay. Just remember the 3 old words we left on the table. Long ago I am here. And if one evening you return to this recording or flip through these pages, you will hear the soft ring of a ceramic bell at a wooden door. That ring is just enough to lower your shoulders by ½ an inch, just enough to remind you that the secret of Zen is not really a secret. It is simply a kind habit you practice with yourself each day. May you sleep deeply and wake up with a gentle ray of light brushing your shoulder, like a promise kept. So this 3-hour journey through the Zen secret to living, a focused and peaceful life, comes to a close. From the very first breath of the evening to the final beat of stillness, you have walked with me through the landscapes of the body, the mind, the breath, and compassion. Every step, every breath, every pause has whispered to you that peace is not far away. It is already within you. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to control everything. You just need to be fully present in the smallest of actions. When you drink water, when you wash your hands, when you look at someone, or when you place something down on a table, you are already living in the spirit of meditation. All the wisdom passed down by Zen masters through thousands of years leads back to one simple truth. Being present is the greatest miracle. If tonight you feel just a little lighter on one shoulder, if you take one deeper breath, or even just smile quietly at the sound of the wind outside your window, then this journey has been complete. Not because it changed you, but because it brought you back to yourself. I want to say thank you. Thank you for sitting still through this long stretch of time, for letting your heart listen, for letting your mind rest, and for letting your breath return to where it belongs. Thank you for believing that small things, a single breath, a smile, or a moment of stillness can rescue a long day from falling apart. Before we close, I have one gentle invitation. If you would like to return to a space like this each week, where music and voice meet, where stories of Zen help your mind unwind after a long day, please hit the subscribe button. That action takes only a second, but it is your way of telling yourself, I will return to this stillness more often. Each week, I will light a small lantern on the bank of this river, a video, a story, a soft reminder, so you only need to open it to see light. And if you found this content helpful, consider sharing it with someone who might need a quiet pause. Who knows, maybe one story, one breath, one tiny bell might help someone else find their way back. Thank you for walking with me all the way to the very end. May you sleep deeply tonight and wake up tomorrow with a light heart and a clear mind. And remember, breathe in and quietly say, I am here. Breathe out, smile, and say, everything is enough. I will see you in the next video.